They say don't look down. No, you might occasionally look down and
You and I even did that. You're like, Zach, they say don't look down. I just looked down. I'm like, yeah, yeah, me too. I did it.
welcome to the Greens and Blues 14er podcast. This episode, Zach wants to know if you feel like he does. I drown in sweet tea, and we discuss our adventure on a Centennial San Juan 13er half peak. Zachary Russell, how you doing this morning?
I'm excellent, Eric. How are you in lovely Castle Rock, Colorado?
It is lovely. I just hiked a handful of 13ers in the Front Range yesterday. One of my first solo hikes of the summer. I'm getting a little bit of a late start this summer, but better late than never, I suppose.
So,
So,
what were the handful that you did?
so there's a quartet, and you could add James Peak if you were super aggressive on this, but it's a group that's just south of James Peak. So Bancroft, Perry Peak, Mount Eva, and Mount Flora. So I actually used what the Climbing Coonies recommended, which is to start from Fall River Reservoir. So it was a long traverse, more gain than I was expecting, but it was a lot of fun. It was a really cool hike, beautiful day. So yeah, enjoyed that.
So, that was peak 13ers 27 through 30 for you, right?
It was, yeah. So,
Cool.
and hoping that it doesn't end there. So, I think
It, it, sh it shouldn't if things go as planned here.
I think you and I have some plans to increase that number for both of us in the coming days. So, how are you
Well,
doing, Zach?
I'm doing well. Yeah, you and I, well, we're going to talk about a peak we did, what, about 10, 11 days ago.
Yeah.
So Eric and I hiked Half Peak, and then we went and just did a fun hike in Willow Lake in the Sangres a few weeks ago. And then immediately after getting back home, I turned around, packed my bag, and my family and I went to San Francisco for a few days. And that was really great. Stayed in Pacifica. We went around Golden Gate Park, which is just an amazing park to walk around in. Did the Fisherman's Wharf and all the things.
Oh yeah.
My wife got to see big redwoods. There were
Man.
some
Is that
disappointments though.
Uh-oh.
We wanted to go to like a Hello Kitty tea cafe in San Jose, and I guess, my wife and I are just clueless on some level. I don't know, but we went there and it was like a 2 hour line.
Oh my
And
gosh.
my daughter Cassie was so excited about it, and she was bummed because we couldn't, and we never thought, oh, there's going to be a 2 hour wait for a Hello Kitty cafe,
Oh, that
right?
stinks. Oh my gosh.
And then the next day, my daughter loves capybaras. We
Oh yeah, that's cool.
we wanted to go to the San Francisco Zoo and check out capybaras. And we had Googled it, and it said that there were two capybaras there. Their names were Rosemary and Beryl, as in beryllium. And we get there, and we walked around that place endlessly and didn't find it. And eventually we went up to the front. We're like, we can't find the capybaras. And they're like, oh, no, we haven't had those for a long time.
Oh my gosh. You're
And
kidding me.
we're like, well, we Googled it, and it said you had them. And they were like, they got real defensive. They're like, oh, no, they're not on the website. And then the next day,
Oh
so there was
no.
that disappointment. And then the next day, we wanted to go to Muir Woods. So we
Yeah.
drive north out of San Francisco, go over the Golden Gate Bridge. We grabbed some lunches in Sausalito. We're headed up to Muir Woods, and they need a reservation for that.
Oh, you're
Um,
kidding.
so we recovered from that, and we drove up the coast and saw some pretty stuff. And we eventually saw some redwoods. But man, you and I are 80s kids. We grew up when you
Yeah.
could just show up to things. And that's just not the way of the world anymore. You got to like make a reservation to go potty these days. So um, yeah, it was a fun trip. I love my family. I love having adventures with them, but a little frustrating. So yeah, and now my daughter has started the sixth grade.
Oh
I
yeah.
know your son is starting high school.
Yeah,
Um,
our oldest is. Yep.
yep. Yeah, my kid just started sixth grade today. and she's doing that. She's a faithful listener of the podcast. So, Cassia, you're going to hear this in a few weeks. Hope your first day went really well. And yeah, and now you and I are going to meet. And we're going to try to do Holy Cross Ridge, and see what else the world holds for us. If we're feeling it and the weather's good, I'm going to try to tack on a couple more 13ers and beef up your list here, buddy. So
Maybe add a notch or two. Yeah,
yeah,
beef up the list. Love it.
add a
Yeah,
notch or
it's
two.
yeah. So yeah, we were talking about school. My oldest Ty started high school a few days ago, and my youngest Zach, he is starting middle school today as well.
Oh,
So
really?
he's entering seventh grade, which for our school district is middle school. Ours only
Okay.
does middle school, seventh and eighth. So yeah, same first days for Zach and for Cassia. So hopefully all goes well for both of them.
Yeah,
It's a big deal.
it's a big deal, man. Changing classes and
Hmm.
middle school can always be a bit fraught for kids,
Yeah,
and it's a big
for sure.
transition, and I'm having some dad feelings about it all. I'm having to do a little bit of letting go, and
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
particularly good at that. So
yeah.
it's good to
Agreed.
be talking to you because that'll keep me distracted from my own anxious worries about my kid. So
I'll distract you with my tales of woe and my feet and ankles from Half Peak a week and a half ago.
yeah, so speaking of, what are we talking about today, Eric?
Yeah, we're talking about a unique centennial down in the
Mm-hmm.
San Juans, Half Peak. I wasn't actually very familiar with this until you and I summited Sunshine and Red Cloud last year, and we kind of looked to the south of Sunshine, and we saw this vista and a big meadow and a bunch of other 13ers around, and I said, what are all those? And you're like, dude, graduate from the fifth grade already. Like it's cool, but you don't have to get all excited about it. We can go hike those. And so I don't think we could see Half Peak specifically from there, but it is in the wilderness just south of Sunshine or Red Cloud. And so we kind of studied up or I studied up and you were like, dude, this is all just really cool. Let me know what you want to do. And so we kind of had a couple options ready and Half Peak is what we decided on.
Yeah, Half Peak, a really fun peak in the San Juans, as Eric said, south of Sunshine and Red Cloud. So it's off the same kind of axis in the Alpine Loop. It's at the terminus of a couple cool valleys. There's the Pole Creek drainage that comes up
Mm.
from the south, and then where our access was Cataract Gulch coming in from the north. And that's what we saw from Sunshine and Red Cloud was that cool cataract drainage. Like a lot of that area, it's volcanic and glaciated, and so it's got this kind of gulch. You kind of hike up a series of waterfalls essentially, or hanging valleys that have been glaciated, and then it kind of settles out into this high alpine meadow or very wide, beautiful valley right at timberline that's big and green and expansive, and it's got big views. And then it leads to Half Peak, which is this funky, interesting peak, which is cliffs on three sides of it. It looks nasty from three
Yeah.
aspects, but then from one aspect, it's totally doable. And that's what we chose to hike. So we had some alternate plans to maybe go to Rio Grande Pyramid, which we're going to have to do some other point in our lives. But that's the one we chose. And I'm glad we did because it was a really fun day.
It was a really fun day, and I like when you describe volcanic and glaciated. It makes it sound like it was like double the fun. Like it was that much cooler because it was both volcanic rock and glaciers helped form that area too.
Yeah, very lush because
Yes.
those parent soils up there. And yeah, and that makes for good wildflowers, which we
Oh
saw
yeah.
on our trip. Yeah, really, just a really funky, interesting peak where you don't know if it's going to go until the last minute and then it
That's
goes.
right.
So
That's right.
tell us, Eric, how do we get to Half Peak? If you want to go there, if someone listening to this goes, man, I need a Centennial 13er in the San Juans. I'm tired of 14ers. I want to go to the San Juans. I want to go somewhere kind of a little bit more remote and actually quite accessible. How do you get
Mm.
there?
Yeah, a good description, remote and still accessible. So the Cataract Gulch Trailhead, like you mentioned, Zach, is where we did it from. there's multiple ways to summit Half Peak, but that's the way we chose. So
Roach's classic
and
route.
that's it is. That's how he describes it. And actually that's what I would recommend is follow Roach's description on getting there. It's quite detailed as it normally is. And so it's southwest of Lake City. And yeah, follow Roach's directions, you'll get right there. It's two-wheel drive accessible. If you were to try to go beyond that to Cuba Gulch, which is just the next gulch over from Cataract, that gets a little rougher, and a sedan wouldn't get up there, I don't think. You and I started kind of walking up the road just a little bit, and I think we already could tell that, a regular passenger car wasn't going to get much farther than where we got to at Cataract Gulch.
And yeah, Cataract Gulch it's off the Lake San Cristobal Road, which is Hinsdale County Road 30, just south of Lake City. So before the Alpine Loop starts to get rough, you
Hmm.
turn and go a little south towards Cataract Gulch. And that keeps you from driving on any of really the tough part of the Alpine Loop. It's just a nice dirt road. It's graded. And the trailhead's great when you get there. If you're looking for a place to camp, perhaps the night before, like Eric and I were, there is a nicely maintained BLM trailhead there that has about 4 or 5 dispersed sites and a nice bathroom.
Bathroom too. Yep.
Actually, we got to pause here. I told Eric
Here we
this.
go.
This was seriously one of the nicest public trailhead bathrooms I've ever been in my life. Maybe you don't even need to hike Half Peak, but maybe you just need to go visit the bathroom at Cataract
You had to
Gulch.
go to the bathroom.
It's
Oh,
so clean. It
it's
was
really clean. It
clean.
was.
Normally, even clean ones have a couple dozen flies buzzing around. This had like maybe one fly in there. It smelled good. The floor was clean. Everything looked good. I don't know what juju the BLM person around there is working, but shout out to them. They killed it. Yeah, and so we were able to camp basically right next to the trailhead.
Yep.
There were a couple spots down the road. I can imagine on maybe a crazy odd every once in a while weekend, maybe like Labor Day, that area fills up. But short of that, I bet it's probably available. We were there on, I believe, a Friday night.
I think it was a Friday night. Yep.
Yeah, had no problems. So
Yep.
that was great for camping. There's not a lot of camping on the Lake San Cristobal Road before you get there.
Mm.
So if you want to roll the dice, and if you've got four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, you can go up the road a little further and find other spots. But yeah, if you want to camp, that's a good place for you.
Yep.
So, well, once you've camped, Eric, once you've gotten there, you've camped or driven in at 2 a.m. With bleary eyes from Denver. What's the trail like?
Yeah, so from the trailhead, you'll just cross a really good bridge right away and you'll just start ascending. And this approach, as I'm sure we'll get into, this approach is long and it feels long. You're just
Yeah,
switchbacking up through forest and it goes for a ways.
maybe now I've given props to the BLM, but here's maybe a bone of contention to pick.
Here we go.
So Roach in his 13ers book says it's 12.6 miles with 4,240 feet of elevation gain and loss. It's 216 Roach points. Eric and I still don't know how he calculates those. It certainly felt like a lot longer than 12.6 miles round
Yeah.
trip. And I've seen people on Colorado 13ers Facebook page post their Strava tracks
Mm-hmm.
and stuff and say it's closer to 16.
Oh, good
And
heavens. Oh, wow.
and at the pace you and I move, Eric, and the speed that we hike and the amount of time it took, I feel like it's probably closer to 15 miles round trip. So yeah, you'll go over basically super class 1 trail and you're going to ascend up Cataract Gulch and you're going to get to us eventually. You're going to get to Cataract Lake, and then there's actually a series of little dotted high alpine lakes after that. That's all easy trail hiking. That's not complicated in any way, shape, or form. And then the next thing happens where if you're going by Roach's description, you need to deviate from that at a certain point here because Eric and I tried to follow it kind of to a T. And he says after you get to Cataract Lake, you need to kind of hike above the lake
Mm-hmm.
and try to kind of ascend above the lake to another lake above it. There is another lake above it. Eric and I found that, and to kind of curl around the south side of Half Peak.
Hmm.
I think Roach may have written that before the CDT was well established. For people listening to it now, just hike all the way to the CDT.
Yep.
You're going to reach a junction with the CDT at a pass, kind of at a pass between Cataract Gulch and Pole Creek Basin. And then you're just going to turn right onto the CDT and hike west. You want to hike west for a ways. You're going to kind of bend around the south edge of Half Peak, and you're going to kind of go up into another basin. When you kind of start to curl back around this other basin, when you kind of have gone up into it, you'll look up and you'll see a gully going up. In our case, this gully was filled with beautiful wildflowers. That's where you want to hike up. And Roach wants to send you there, but the way he describes in his book, he probably didn't have a trail to get you there, but there's a CDT trail that will get you there now.
Yep. The whole route is basically like a big J. You kind of start at the upper right where you would start drawing a J. That's Cataract Gulch, and you kind of go due south for a long time. Then you hit the CDT and you kind of hit the bottom of where you start to kind of curl around like you were describing, Zach. And then eventually, when you start going due north on that J, that's the gully you're describing. And it's kind of tundra with some rocks mixed in kind of gully. Like it's not, there's no scree or anything like that. Hopefully it's easy enough to identify. But yeah, I think you and I kind of tried to start the curl around of that J earlier. Again, because the CDT is there, we didn't realize that that would be an easier way to go. So, but we got there eventually.
We did. We ended up wasting some effort there, and eventually just had to suck up our pride and join the trail. We wanted to stay above it and not lose our elevation, but that wasn't going to happen.
No.
Even if you go the wrong way like we did, there's no way you're going to get up Half Peak because you run into cliffs.
Oh, for sure.
So eventually, if you go around the south side of Half Peak, it's going to notch you up into that gully if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And once you kind of notch up into that gully, then you get to go up it. You said it was tundra and not scree, but it is steep.
It is steep though.
Maybe we're getting older, Eric, but boy, we were sucking wind going up that darn thing.
It took a while.
It took it took us 10 minutes to get down and like 40 minutes to go up. If that gives anybody any perspective on how we were feeling going up it.
About the right ratio, yeah.
So you're going to kind of hoof it up this long gully here, and then you kind of flatten out, and it flattens out to, I mean, you're still going up, but now Eric and I at this point could talk and walk at the same time. And it's a broad plain, and you can see you're headed north. It's going to kind of drag you magnetically towards this choke point. And at that point, I think you should describe what happens, Eric.
So yeah, it's basically the final push. I guess I would break it up into three parts. Once you're at the top of the gully, you're kind of on this tundra field that's ascending. Like you said, Zach, there's some reliefs. We weren't sucking wind quite as bad going up that, but there's that kind of gentler ascent. And then you run into the ridge, which is kind of the crux of the route. And then there's the final push after that. So once you get to the ridge, I actually took a video of you after we got done with the hike, and you were kind of describing the ridge, and you very appropriately described it as, it doesn't look like it'll go, but it'll go. Like when you first get there, you're thinking, how in the heck are we going to do that? Because
it's like the narrow part of an hourglass. It's like the choke point of the whole route, right?
It is. And you're looking at the east side of it, which looks like, how in the world can you even get across this? But you're going to stay on the west side of that ridge, and there's more relief there for sure. There's occasional trail segments, but otherwise, I think that the way that we took, of course, you led because your route finding skills are superior and mine are non-existent. So we took the right path, and you'll be on the west side of that ridge, just barely in some cases, though. You'll be able to look over to the east side and think, wow, that's a lot of exposure. But, they say don't look down. No, you might occasionally look down. And
you and I even did that. You're like, Zach, they say don't look down. I just looked down. I'm like, yeah, yeah, me too. I did it. I mean, we were walking within a couple feet of the edge.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
but that being said, for anyone that's a bit squeamish about it, the rock is super stable
It
here.
was good for sure.
It's really good rock. There's not a lot of rock fall potential. I mean, I guess you could kick down a few, but really safe rock. I never felt unsafe at all on the route. And you want to basically stay pretty tight to the ridge. And when you drop down, you're always going to drop down onto the west side of the ridge.
For sure. It was funny. I mean, it lasted
Maybe
maybe
20 minutes.
15.
We stopped and talked to a guy for a
That's true.
little
We
bit.
did.
It was really nice,
Yep.
but Mr.
Yeah.
Green Jacket.
That's yeah.
But yeah, it was maybe 20 minutes, and
Okay.
there was only one moment where I had to do a little route finding where I like went up. Really
Yep.
didn't take that long, and it wasn't super committing.
It wasn't. And I found myself as we were going, I've documented very well on our podcast how much I don't like exposure. I felt a lot more comfortable on this ridge than I think I ever have on
Hmm.
a high class two or even maybe a two plusy kind of a section of route. It was actually fun. Like you had
Yeah.
to kind of use your hands a little bit and do a little bit of scrambling, but not a ton. And it wasn't super exposed. So surprisingly, I really enjoyed that part. And I think it really kind of helped me experience two plus in a way that I really enjoyed and I wasn't expecting. So, and at the end of that, that's the end of the second section, if as it were, and then your third and final section is just another gentle push. It was kind of reminiscent of Uncompahgre a little bit
Yeah, where
in
you
that
go
app.
through a crux and then you're just kind
Yep,
of walking on something flat. And it's the
yep,
same parent rocks and same process. So
yep.
it had a real similar feel to Uncompahgre for sure.
It did. And then you get to the summit and you can see all around. I was kind of a kid on a playground again, like I was on Sunshine and Red Cloud. What's that mountain? Oh my gosh, that's the Sneffels group. Holy cow, that's awesome. And so it was really fun to get to the summit and just look all around again and say, holy cow, we're in the midst of a lot of beauty here.
Yeah, there's a lot to commend this peak, but
Mm,
the view, we had a clear day. We're looking over at the Sneffels group and going through the individual peaks, and you can see Sneffels and Potosi and Tea Kettle and all those peaks. And then we could see Uncompahgre and Wetterhorn and Matterhorn. We could see
yep.
Sunshine and Red Cloud. The fun part was looking to kind of the southwest into the Weminuche and seeing the
Hmm.
Trinities, then the Chicago Basin group, and then we could look over to the Lagaritas and see. I mean, it was kind of like Handy's and those peaks. Like you're surrounded by a sea of mountains,
Yep.
kind of in every direction. Like there's no view where there's not a mountain.
Yep.
So that was great, especially after that ridge. The ridge was, for those of us that are kind of climbing dilettantes, it's just the right amount of ridginess and commitment and route finding that makes it feel fun.
Yeah.
And like you did a mountain, but without being like, dang, it becomes tedious, right?
Right.
So I love this quote from Jerry Roach. It's a dad joke when he describes it. He says, whatever the geography, this peak will require more than half your attention. That felt appropriate there.
It
Like
did.
it did require a little more than half our attention. So yeah, the views were sensational and it leading up to it was great. And sometimes when you do a peak like that, there's a little bit of apprehension, like, oh, I got to go back down that. But in this case, I don't think either of us felt that way. We're like, oh yeah, this will be easy. We can make it out. So I think the description of class two plus ish is pretty much spot on.
Yeah. I actually struggled with that a little bit because as we were going, I thought I would have had a tendency to kind of overinflate it and think, oh, this has got to be two plus like the whole way. But the whole time I'm thinking, okay, I'm kind of comparing it to Uncompahgre a little bit.
Hmm.
And Uncompahgre, I think, is pretty squarely class two, maybe the upper end of it. And that's kind of where I initially placed Half Peak
Hmm.
and especially the Ridge. I was thinking this is kind of like the upper end of class two, but I didn't know if it was really two plus ish. And I think, Zach, where we kind of landed was there may be a few two plus sections, but
Hmm.
overall the route is probably closer to like class two with some more difficult spots.
I would agree with that. I think the challenge of this is more the distance.
The
Um,
length, yeah.
it's the length. It's beautiful, but you're going to be spending a lot of time going up. I mean, you start at 9,600 feet, so, and you're going to 13,840.
Hmm.
So you're going to gain 4,200 feet over quite a distance, 7.5 miles or so. So it's more that you're putting in miles, and
Hmm.
that's probably the quote unquote harder part of it. Yeah, so maybe on our scale, the class is 1/2/2 plus, but the effortlty or the grunt
The
factor,
grunty. Yeah.
it's a little more grunty than some. I mean, we had planned to maybe do Rio Grande Pyramid, and that's super grunty. So,
That's even longer. Yeah.
yeah, we had a couple long days ahead if we were doing that. But
Yeah.
yeah, and afterwards, you were pretty beat, weren't you, Eric?
Oh, my feet were beat for sure. And yeah, ankles, knees. If there was a joint in my body, it was sore just from the whole thing. Yeah, that approach down. You you commented you're an elite down climber, I think is the quote that you said. And you were far more elite than I was. It was just taking me forever to not beat up my feet even more. So you seem like you were doing pretty good on the descent though, Zach.
I felt fine. Yeah, I don't know why that is.
It's all that
It,
HGH you're taking, right?
yeah, yeah, it's the supplementation. Yeah, I felt fine. There was a certain point where I was, everyone knows this feeling that's done a fair bit of hiking. It's like by about mile 6 or so on the way back, you're kind of like, okay, I'm good now. This is fine. Let's go home. That being said, it's a beautiful valley.
Oh
We did
yeah.
not describe the glories of Cataract Gulch enough. There were a lot of wildflowers there. Some really cool There's like a waterfall where the water kind of spills over some. I know that's the definition of a waterfall, but like it like
You're doing a great job, Zach.
it like spilled over these like square rocks, and it looked really cool. There's a couple other waterfalls. We saw a male deer that apparently is like marked that
I think
trail
he
as like,
lives there.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
like hanging out on the
Yeah.
trail. It was a great hike. I really enjoyed it, but long. Yeah,
But
and
long.
as your feet will attest.
Yeah. It was really pretty. We saw a few people that kind of backpacked in and camped
Hmm.
up along the trail, but one person in particular, before that one waterfall you're describing, Zach, which was, it's got to be one of the greatest waterfalls I've ever seen. It was, that alone is probably worth at least the hike up to that section of the
Yeah,
approach
totally.
because that, it was so beautiful. But someone had actually camped right next to the stream that led to that waterfall. And you and I both
Within
commented
like 10 feet of the
like,
waterfall, like right before the water spilled over.
like that. Not only is that one of the greatest waterfall, that might be the single greatest campsite I've ever seen in my life. Like that, I don't know how you could get any better than that. Prettier, and you've got direct water access, and so it was just that approach. Yeah, it was beautiful. It's in a really pretty forested section. It was just flipping long.
Yeah. That's definitely a feature of the peak is the length of it. I think from what I can tell, I think Roach underestimates that length by just a hair. And maybe he's not including the fact that there's a fair number of switchbacks to get up some of these hanging valleys. So yeah, so we've gone through now the difficulty of this class 2/2 plus, the effortlty on a scale of 0 to 10, what would you place it at, Eric, or gruntiness?
Oh, gruntiness. I would put it.
What would your
Yeah,
feet put it at, Eric?
my feet would put it on 0 to 10. My feet would put it at about 105. But I
uh,
think
at an 11?
yeah, this one goes to 11. I don't know, a 7 or 8, or maybe
Yeah.
even a little higher. It's long, worth the price of admission, but it's long. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'd put it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say it's not one of the longest day hikes, but it's right at the edge of day hike. I think much longer, and we were just talking about camping options or backpacking options much longer, and I would recommend a backpack.
Hmm.
If people have an extra couple days and they want to backpack up that valley and camp at Cataract Lake or the cool little spot overlooking the waterfall that's the best place in the world, there are other 13ers up there. There's
Oh yeah.
there's Quarter Peak, which is doable, not
Hmm.
doable from Half Peak so far as we could tell. There's Quarter Peak there. If you go into the Pole Creek Basin, there's Cataract Peak, there's Tundra Top, there's
Hmm.
Carson, there's Bent. Roach talks about another 13er across Cataract Pass, I guess, that's like an extra credit 13er. So there's a lot of peaks to do up there if you want to
Yeah.
spend some time up there, if you want to pay the entry fee, as it were. But yeah, I'd say it's probably a 7 or an 8 for sure. But that is compensated for by the views. In our view scale, what would you rate this half peak and its environs?
Yeah, I would again, similar to Sunshine and Red Cloud, I would put it like a 9 or a 10. I mean, it's just there is 13ers all around, there's 14ers all around. And like you said, it's got this kind of central location in the middle of the edges of the Lagaritas and the Waymanoosh and, all the 14ers that are north of there. So it's this really nice kind of central section in between just so many different peaks that, if you're very skilled and very well knowledged in the San Juans, like Zach, you'll be able to pick out what a lot of them are and identify, hey, that way out there, there's the Wilson group. And it was just so cool to be surrounded by all those peaks once again and be guided by a good friend that knows the area and can list out what so many of them are and kind of get a cool view of what they all look like from that central position. So I thought the views were amazing.
I'm going to second that. I'd say if Handy's is generally considered to have some of the best views of a
Mm,
14er, I mean, you're not a stone's throw from Handy's, but you're not far from Handy's.
no.
The views are similar to what you're going to get on Handy's, but without the crowds. Yeah, this is a classic peak with classic San Juan views, which are really some of the best, probably short of being in the Weminuche in Colorado. Okay, Eric, we've done our big hike. Where do you go eat after this? Do you want to go eat after this? We always have a classic go to here, which
We do.
is
Southern Vittles in Lake City. The
fried food and sweet tea.
keep the sweet tea coming, and yeah, bring all of the brisket and all of the hush puppies and fried okra. That's what you had, right? You had fried okra, hush puppies, and
I had fried catfish, fried shrimp, fried okra, and hush puppies. I did not have a thing on my plate that wasn't brown. Oh no, I did have coleslaw. So
oh, I wonder
that's
if you
a
could deep fry
vegetable.
coleslaw. That's yeah,
I'm sure the Oklahoma State Fair
so
has tried to deep
someone's
fry
tried it.
coleslaw.
Oh, Southern Vittles never disappoints.
We were hurting when we got in there, and when we left, we were fully recovered.
We felt better for sure.
We've and we good enough. The next day we went to Willow Lake, which is like an 8 mile hike, and we felt
hmm
fine.
We did it good.
Yeah, so that was always solid. We should say there is a barbecue place in Lake City that you can go to if you're interested. If you go back down the road towards Creed, there's Freeman's, which has good burgers. And then there's ARPS in Creed too. And then at that point, you're going out towards Monte Vista and all that. So,
Yep.
yeah, there's a few places in Lake City, but maybe we should get a sponsorship from the fine people
We
at
should call them up.
Southern Vittles. Throw us a free okra basket or something.
Yeah,
Cause,
give us unlimited sweet tea for the rest of our lives. That'd
oh
be a
man,
deal
yeah, I downed 2 of those, and normally if I have that much sugar and caffeine, I'm like wired. Like, nope, I slept like a baby that night.
for sure. Uh,
So, Eric, we're to the point of the show now that we always like to do, which is a song that we want to associate with this particular peak.
hmm,
You and I were jamming out to a lot of stuff driving up the road.
yes, we were.
On our next hike, we were talking a lot about music. So, if Half Peak was a song, Eric, what song would it be?
I struggled a little bit with this one. I mean, there was a few kind of immediate options. Like I thought of like Bon Jovi, "Living on a Prayer," because we're halfway there, and oh, that's as dad jokey as you can get. But the more I thought about it, if the mountains could talk, we summited Half Peak, but we got a little beat up, especially me. I got beat up on the way down. So I think if Half Peak could talk, it would say, yeah, you got to the summit, but I made you pay on the way up and on the way down. So I still kind of got a win out of it. You briefly mentioned Quarter Peak earlier, Zach, and we did have intentions of considering adding that
Mm-hmm.
on. There was no way that was going to happen,
No, it's
but
the north side of Half Peak, just for those that want to know, it's really cliffy.
it's
And
jagged. Yeah.
you would have to really descend quite a bit. And at that point, you're not linking the peaks, you're just hiking two peaks in a day.
Basically is how you would have to do it. On the way up, we were even looking, you
Hmm.
especially were looking for kind of bailout points. If we were to ascend Quarter Peak, how would we then get down back
Yeah.
to the trail? We kind of had Quarter Peak a little bit on the brain, and I think if Quarter Peak could talk, it would say, "I win. You didn't even touch me." So and then after that, like you mentioned, we had a fun hike up to Willow Lake near Challenger and Kit Carson, and that lake is I've never been there. It was amazing. We saw some really cool wildlife. Got to see those peaks from down below. You know, obviously you summited Challenger in the past, so that was a fun hike. But the alternate that we were considering was another 13er, I think south of Monte Vista, if I recall, still
Bennett
in the San
Peak.
Juans. Yeah, Bennett
Mhm.
Peak. And so if Bennett Peak could talk, it would say, I win. You didn't even try to hike me. You were so beat up, you went to, hike a lake instead. So I ended up thinking through all that, and so my song for Half Peak and the other ones we were considering would be an old song by the band Blues Traveler, which is "The Mountains Win Again."
Mm,
I think it was in a beer commercial a ways back too, but most of the song is actually more about unrequited love or a relationship that didn't work out. But the
mm,
end of the chorus, John Popper just sings "The mountains win again." Voice just soars, and it's like when I think of the mountains overall, and I hear that song, like my spine just tingles. Like the mountains, they're always going to be there. They will far outlive any of us, and to some extent, they're always going to win. But
hmm.
for Half Peak in particular, I think there were aspects of it where even though we got to the summit, it's still kind of won the war, so to speak, if you could say it like that. So
They endure and we do not,
it's
unfortunately.
for sure. Yep. So I'm gonna go with Mountains Win again.
I love it. I need to listen to that. Is that on the same album as Hook?
It is, yeah. So that
Okay.
was the kind of the minor third single after Run Around and Hook, and I think
Yeah.
it's far superior to those other two songs. So I
All
love that
right.
song.
I'm going to give that a listen, Eric.
Yeah.
Well, my pick is one that you have heard because I blasted it into your eardrums as we were driving down Lake San Cristobal Road. I had like a 70s playlist we're jamming out, and the song that comes on is Peter Frampton's Do You Feel
Brampton.
Like We Do?
Yes.
And had that flipping song stuck in my head for days. I still have the part of it stuck in my head. Um,
Is it
so
the talk box or the guitar solo? Which one is it?
yes,
Or is
it's
it
both.
neither? Yeah,
It's
it's both.
it's about the 7 minute mark on. So for those that don't know,
That's
Frampton Comes Alive
awesome.
was for a while the best-selling album in the world. I think it even outsold the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Eric and I were jamming out to Frampton Comes Alive, and there's a moment, probably 9 minutes in. This is like a 13-minute epic where he talks through a talk box. Eric and I debated. We don't even know what that is. It's like a tube that goes in his mouth, and he like talks into it, and it makes synthesizer sounds. It's really weird. You can watch it on YouTube. Anyway, I had Do You Feel Like We Do? I had the chorus in my head. I had the weird talk box where the crowd goes nuts part in my head. And then I had the ripping guitar solo that Frampton pulls out of the bag about 10 minutes into that song in my head, too. And I feel like that's a cool anthem anyway. Do You Feel Like We Do? Although it's about him like partying, woke up, with a wine glass in my hand and all that stuff. For Eric and I, we were not partying. We woke up at 4:45 in the morning. Um, but that's definitely the song that I had. Do you feel like we do? Happy, joyous, and a little beat up after hiking Half Peak.
I love it. That's awesome. That whole 13-minute epic it was so much fun to listen to on the way to Cataract Gulch as we were trying to pay attention to the directions on how to get down the Lake San Cristobal Road and where to make all the right turns. So
Yeah,
I love
Eric,
that pick.
I'll
That's
set the
awesome.
scene here. Eric's over there looking at the map and the guidebook for the turnoffs, and I'm just like jamming in the driver's seat. And Eric's like, "Yeah, you need to turn here," and I'm like, "Sure, I'll do whatever, man. I'm just jamming."
It was awesome.
I was having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've lost the art, Eric, of the 13-minute song. I th-
Gosh.
I think we need more of those. I think we need more. Do You Feel Like We Do or Tunnel of Love by Dire Straits. I think that's 12 minutes. Inagata Davita's what,
Of
18 and a
course,
half
that's yeah,
minutes.
that's an eternity.
I think we need to bring back the epic, indulgent series of guitar solos that really prevailed in the late 70s, early 80s.
I think Zach, you should begin bringing that back along with the talk box, and just it could be over anything. We could just smack a table and call it a drum beat, and you'll stream of consciousness just start saying, you know what, quarter peak, I don't like you anyways, so I
Quarter
didn't even
pick,
want to get up.
we don't like you anyways. Do you feel like we do?
And the crowd erupts. Everyone would love that. Oh, that's great.
Well, Eric, you're recording your own music. I think you got to be the one to carry this mantle forward
Oh
of
man.
a fusion of the pop sensibilities of 90s music that you really bring forward, your songwriting quality, along with talk box and extended overindulgent guitar solos.
Oh
I,
man.
think about it.
I
Just
have to think about it. I can nail one out of three, and that ain't bad, but it's maybe not good either.
uh, that's
I'll have to work
great.
on that.
Well, is there anything else that you want to add to our half peak episode here, Eric?
Zach, I hope that we haven't scared anybody off in our description of
Oh,
Half Peak.
Lord, no. This is fantastic.
This was a wonderful peak, absolutely worth any kind of effort or effortculty that any hiker would require to get to the top of it. I mean, during the approach, once you kind of emerge from tree line, you can clearly see Half Peak. You can see where you're going. That view is worth it. It's such a cool looking peak, and the effort it requires to get to the top is worth it. And frankly, I've summited, a couple dozen plus 13ers. I would say Half Peak's my favorite so far because it really reestablished, I guess, my comfort level with two plus ish, and it made two plus fun. And for someone
Wow.
like me that doesn't like exposure, that, has certainly has two plus experience, but hasn't always enjoyed the two plus experiences I've had, that's refreshing. I had a lot of fun on it. Obviously, the weather held out for us. It was a great day. Any hike with you, Zach, is always a lot of fun. So I think overall, it was just a wonderful experience, and I loved Half Peak. I think it's worth it for anyone that wants to consider a cool Centennial San Juan 13er. Give it a
Absolutely.
go. It's worth
I
it.
I totally second that. For me, it's in my top five
Mm,
13ers for sure.
yeah. That's
Um,
saying a lot too. With all the 13ers you've hiked, if it's in the top five, that's a
yeah,
winner.
I think I'm at 130 or something now.
Yeah.
And out of those, my favorite is Harris Peak, and we haven't done an episode on that.
Mm.
One of my favorites is Mount Oklahoma, and not because I live in Oklahoma, I just think it's a cool peak.
Yeah.
And then Half Peak's right up there. I thought that was fantastic. So, yeah, go out there and hike it. Have fun and take on Half Peak.
And go to a
Well,
spa afterwards.
yeah, then go get a Swedish massage afterwards. So, Eric, if people want to find us, contact us, drop us a voicemail, whatever the case may be, how do they do so, my friend?
Especially if you've hiked Half Peak and have experience, let us know. So you can go to our website, which is greensandbluespodcast.podbean.com. There you can find most of the ways to get a hold of us, which would be our email address, greensandbluespodcast@gmail.com. You can find our Facebook group there. You can find our YouTube channel there, which, again, I posted a video of Zach talking about Half Peak. If you want to check out his mug and his description of the Half Peak Ridge, you can delight in that on our YouTube channel.
Yeah,
And you
a
can, yeah,
delight indeed. Yeah.
check out Zach's description of the ridge. And you can find a link to leave us a voicemail from your computer, which we would love to hear if anyone has questions, if anyone has comments about our pod, or would like to have a particular episode for us to cover. Zach, you're on Blue Sky at Zach Simpson, or is it
hmm
Zach dot Simpson? I still don't know
It's
how
Zach
that
Dot
works.
Simpson.
Okay.
I'm still on X as well. Other people have found me on Facebook. That's cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, however you want to get a hold of us is all good with us. It's always fun to hear from people. Really enjoy hearing from our listeners. I know there's a few that are stacked up in our Gmail account right now. Well, Eric, I guess I will see you in a few days, buddy, for hopefully Holy Cross and Holy Cross Ridge.
That'll be fun.
Until then, guys, thanks for listening.